You know the story of the man who killed Medusa? That is only one small piece of what he actually did. This is the story of a young man born in a bronze tower because his grandfather was terrified of a prophecy. A young man who was thrown into the sea in a wooden chest as an infant and survived. A young man who stole the only three ancient witches shared between them. A young man who received gifts from 4 different gods. A young man who killed a sea monster the size of a warship to save a princess chained to a rock. A young man who turned 200 armed soldiers to stone in a single moment at his own wedding. And a young man who in the end fulfilled the exact prophecy his grandfather had spent his entire life trying to prevent. This is the story of Perseus, and the prophecy that killed a king. It started with a prophecy. An oracle told King Perseus of Argos that his own grandson would one day kill him. Perseus had one daughter. Her name was Danae. Here is what you need to understand about what a father does when he is told his grandson will kill him. Perseus built a bronze tower underground. He locked his own daughter inside it. No windows, no way for any man to ever reach her. If she could never have a son, no grandson could ever kill him. He had solved the prophecy. Or so he thought, because what Perseus did not know is that Zeus himself had seen Danae, and nothing Perseus built could keep Zeus out of anything. Zeus came to Danae as golden rain falling through the smallest crack in the bronze ceiling. Months later, Danae gave birth to a son. She named him
Perseus.
When Perseus discovered his daughter had given birth in the tower, he was furious. But he could not kill his own daughter or his grandson directly. The gods would punish him for spilling family blood, so he made them disappear. He locked Danae and the infant Perseus in a wooden chest and threw the chest into the sea. He did not want to know. He did not want to be responsible. The sea would do what he could not. Think about that for a second. A king put his own daughter and infant grandson into a coffin and let the ocean take them because he was afraid of a prophecy. That is how much he feared what was coming. But the sea did not drown them. The chest washed ashore on the small island of Seriphos. A fisherman named Dictys found it. He opened it, and he raised Danae and Perseus as his own family. Perseus grew up on that island. He grew up strong. He grew up believing he was just the son of a fisherman. He had no idea who his father actually was. Years passed, and Perseus became a young man, and the king of that island, Polydectes, saw Danae and wanted her. Danae did not want him. Perseus stood between them. Every time the king tried to take her, Perseus was there protecting his mother. Think about who Polydectes was. He was a king. He was used to taking what he wanted. And now a young fisherman's son was the only thing standing in his way. So Polydectes came up with a plan to get rid of Perseus. He announced a feast and demanded every young man on the island bring him a gift, a horse. Perseus had no horse. Perseus was just the son of a fisherman. When Perseus said he could not bring a horse, the king said, "Fine, then bring me something else. Bring me the head of Medusa." It was a death sentence disguised as a gift. Medusa turned every man who looked at her to stone. Sending Perseus to her was the same as killing him, except Perseus said yes. He did not know what he was walking into, but he said yes. To find Medusa, Perseus had to find 3 ancient witches first. The Graiai, 3 sisters so old they had been alive since the beginning of time. 3 sisters who shared one eye between them. They would pass the eye back and forth, taking turns seeing, and only they knew where Medusa lived. Perseus traveled to their cave at the edge of the world. He watched them from the shadows. He waited until one sister passed the eye to the next, and in the moment between one sister releasing the eye and the other catching it, Perseus snatched the eye out of the air. A young man stole the only eye 3 immortal witches shared between them, and he held it in his hand as a leverage.
Return what you took from us, Perseus. We beg of you.
The witches begged for their eye back. Perseus told them he would only return it if they told him exactly how to find Medusa and exactly how to kill her. They told him everything. He gave them the eye back, and he left knowing exactly where to go and exactly what he would need. But what Perseus would need was not things a mortal could get on his own. He would need divine help. 4 gods came to him. Athena gave him a polished, silver-mirrored shield. If he looked at Medusa directly, he would turn to stone. But if he looked at her reflection in the mirror, he could see her without being petrified. Hermes gave him winged sandals. Medusa lived in a place no ship could reach. The sandals would let him fly. Hades gave him the helm of invisibility. Once the deed was done, Medusa's sisters would come for him. He would need to disappear. Hephaestus gave him an adamantine sword, the only blade that could cut through Medusa's neck. 4 gods, 4 gifts, for one impossible mission. Perseus was no longer just a fisherman's son. He was the mortal the gods themselves had equipped to do what no one had ever done. He flew on the winged sandals to the edge of the world where Medusa lived. He found her among statues of every man who had tried before him. He used the mirrored shield. He did not look at her directly. He struck with the adamantine blade, and he took her head. The young man from the fishing island did the thing every warrior before him had died trying to do. He put her head in a bag. He put on the helm of invisibility as her sisters came screaming after him. He flew away invisible, and he started the journey home. But the journey home had one more test waiting for him. Flying back across the sea, Perseus saw something on the coast of a kingdom called Ethiopia. A woman chained to a rock at the water's edge. Her arms and legs locked in iron. Her eyes closed, waiting for death. Perseus descended. Her name was Andromeda. She was a princess. Her mother had boasted that Andromeda was more beautiful than the sea nymphs. The sea god Poseidon had punished the entire kingdom by sending a sea monster called Cetus to destroy the coast. The only way to stop the monster was for the king and queen to chain their own daughter to a rock as sacrifice. The monster was coming. She was moments from dying. And then the sea exploded. Cetus rose from the water, massive serpentine body the size of a warship, jaws that could swallow a man whole, scales like iron plates. The monster lunged for Andromeda. Perseus flew. The battle that happened next lasted hours. Perseus diving in and out of the sea on the winged sandals, striking the monster with the adamantine blade, the monster's blood turning the water red. At the end, Perseus drove the adamantine blade directly into the monster's eye and into its brain. Cetus fell back into the sea, dead. The coast was saved, the princess was saved, and Perseus had done what the entire army of Ethiopia could not do. Perseus freed Andromeda. He fell in love with her. She fell in love with him. Her parents promised him her hand in marriage as a reward for saving her and the kingdom.
May this union bring prosperity to our kingdom.
But what they did not tell him was that Andromeda was already promised to another man, her uncle Phineus. Phineus did not care that Perseus had saved her life. He only cared that he had been promised her first. At the wedding feast, Phineus came with 200 armed soldiers. They surrounded Perseus and Andromeda. Hundreds of swords, one mortal man.
Attack!
Phineus ordered the attack. Perseus reached into his bag. He pulled out Medusa's head. He told Andromeda to close her eyes, and he held the head up. In one moment, 200 armed soldiers turned to stone. Phineus turned to stone, mid-sword swing. Perseus put the head back in the bag, and the wedding continued.
Andromeda, my love, through devastation we have found our way here.
Perseus, my heart, I vow to stand with you forever.
Perseus returned to the island of Seriphos with Andromeda. He found his mother, Danae, in the same position he had left her, being harassed by King Polydectes, who never actually expected Perseus to survive. Perseus walked into the king's feast hall. He told everyone to look away. pulled out Medusa's head. Polydectes and his entire court turned to stone. His mother was free. Perseus gave the kingdom to Dictys, the fisherman who had raised him. And then Perseus returned to his birthplace, Argos, to make peace with his grandfather. The grandfather who had thrown him into the sea as an infant, but his grandfather Acrisius had heard he was coming, and Acrisius remembered the prophecy. Acrisius fled to a distant kingdom where athletic games were being held. He hid in the crowd thinking he was safe. Perseus arrived at that same kingdom not knowing his grandfather was there. He competed in the games. He threw a discus. The discus went off course. It flew into the crowd, and it struck one old man in the head and killed him instantly. The old man was Acrisius. The prophecy happened, exactly as it was always going to happen.